The harsh blare of alarms pierced through the smoke-filled corridors of the damaged spacecraft as Greg Jenkins stumbled toward the escape pod. Blood trickled down his forehead from a gash above his eyebrow, his lungs burning with each ragged breath as he fought to stay conscious. The diplomatic mission to Centuri Prime had gone catastrophically wrong when an unexpected solar flare had damaged their ship's navigation systems, sending them careening through an asteroid field. Now, as the sole survivor of the human delegation, Greg had only one goal: reach the emergency beacon and hope anyone would respond. Structural integrity at 12%, the ship's AI announced with eerie calmness. Complete system failure imminent. Greg pulled himself into the cramped escape pod, his fingers fumbling with the launch sequence. The viewport showed the vast emptiness of space, punctuated by distant stars and the scattered debris of what had once been a state-of-the-art vessel carrying Earth's first diplomatic team to the recently discovered Centurian civilization. Come on," he muttered, slamming his palm against the control panel. With a violent shudder, the escape pod disengaged from the dying ship, propelling itself into the void of space just as a massive explosion consumed what remained of the diplomatic vessel. The pod systems hummed to life, and Greg slumped back in the pilot's seat, darkness creeping in at the edges of his vision. The last thing he remembered was the steady beep of the distress signal being broadcast on all frequencies before unconsciousness claimed him. He had no way of knowing that his signal would be picked up not by Earth's rescue teams, but by a Xalaxian medical vessel conducting routine biological surveys in a nearby star system, a species humanity had yet to encounter. When Greg regained consciousness, the sterile whiteness of his surroundings made him squint. His body felt weightless, suspended in what appeared to be a transparent tank filled with a bluish gel-like substance. Panic seized him as he realized he couldn't move, though he could breathe normally. Outside the tank, he made out blurry figures moving about, tall, slender beings with elongated limbs and large, oval-shaped heads. One of the figures approached the tank, pressing something against the exterior that caused the gel to gradually drain away. As the substance receded, Greg felt his body lowering onto a firm surface. When the tank opened, cool air rushed over his skin, causing him to shiver violently. "The specimen has regained consciousness," a voice said in perfect English, though it carried an odd, musical quality that made the words sound almost like a song. "Vital signs are stabilizing, though there appears to be severe physiological abnormalities." Greg tried to speak but found his throat too dry. A moment later, a device was pressed against his neck and the discomfort subsided. "Can you understand me, unknown being?" The alien leaned closer, its face coming into focus. Large, reflective eyes entirely black studied him with clinical interest. The being's skin was a pale lavender color with faint ridges running along its hairless scalp. "Yes," Greg managed to croak. "I'm human, from Earth, my ship. There was an accident." The alien stepped back, conferring quickly with another of its kind in a series of musical chirps and clicks. Then it returned its attention to Greg. "I am Dr. Xalaxian, Chief Medical Officer of the Xalaxian research vessel Harmony of Stars. We intercepted your distress signal and recovered your escape craft. You have sustained multiple injuries, but we have stabilized your most critical wounds." Greg attempted to sit up, but found himself restrained by invisible forces. "Please remain still," Dr. Xalaxian advised. "We have placed you in a gravitational harness to prevent further injury. You have fractured several of your internal support structures, what you might call bones, and one of your fluid processing organs was damaged." "My liver?" Greg asked, trying to take stock of his own body's condition. "If that is what you call the reddish-brown filtering mechanism in your abdominal cavity, then yes." The alien doctor made a gesture, and a holographic display appeared above Greg, showing what he assumed was a detailed scan of his internal organs. "However, we are most concerned about your thermal regulation," Dr. Xalaxian continued, the musical tone of his voice dropping to a more serious note. "Your body is maintaining an internal temperature that is dangerously elevated." It appears to be causing a significant acceleration of your cellular processes and creating an environment hospitable to microscopic parasitic organisms. We must reduce this temperature immediately or risk systemic failure. Greg blinked in confusion. What temperature am I running? A series of symbols appeared on the holographic display, which then shifted to numbers Greg could understand. 98.6 degrees F. Despite his pain and disorientation, Greg couldn't help but laugh, which immediately sent sharp pains through his ribcage. That's normal for humans, he gasped. We're supposed to be that temperature. Dr. Ezzelith's large eyes widened slightly, the only indication of surprise on his otherwise expressionless face. Impossible. Such elevated internal temperatures would catalyze enzymatic breakdown and accelerate cellular deterioration. No complex organism could sustain such heat without self-destructing. Another Xalaxian approached, this one wearing a covering with different markings. Perhaps it is a fever response to injury. Many species elevate their temperatures temporarily to combat invasive microorganisms. No, Greg insisted, wincing as he tried again to sit up. Humans normally maintain a temperature of about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit or about 37 degrees Celsius. If I dropped much below that, I'd be in serious trouble. The alien doctors exchanged more musical communications, and Greg noticed several instruments being brought closer to his bio-bed. Alarm coursed through him. Wait, he said urgently. Don't try to cool me down, it will kill me. I promise you this temperature is normal for my species, Doctor. Ezzelith studied him silently for a moment. Your communication seems coherent, which suggests you believe what you're saying. However, it contradicts all known biological principles across the thousands of species we have encountered. The Xalaxian normal temperature is 75.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Even the most heat-tolerant species we've studied operate at temperatures well below 90 degrees. Look, Greg said, trying to remain calm, human biology is different. We're endotherms, warm-blooded. Our enzymes and cellular processes have evolved to function optimally at this temperature. If you cool me down, my organs will start to shut down. The second Xalaxian, who had been analyzing data on another holographic display, made a sound that might have been the equivalent of clearing their throat. Dr. Ezzelith, I've accessed the database of known species from this sector. While we have no direct information on humans, there are references to carbon-based bipeds from the third planet of a G-type main sequence star that match the general morphology of our patient. Dr. Ezzelith's attention returned to Greg. We will temporarily accept your assertion while we gather more information. However, there are other concerning factors in your physiology that require immediate attention. Greg felt some of the tension leave his body. Thank you. What other concerns do you have? Your blood carries an unusually high concentration of iron, which is typically toxic to most life forms. Additionally, your lungs appear designed to process oxygen at concentrations that would be corrosive to most respiratory systems. The alien doctor's voice contained a note of what Greg thought might be professional fascination. You are, from our perspective, a walking biological contradiction. Over the next few hours, Greg underwent a series of scans and procedures as the Xalaxian medical team worked to treat his injuries. He learned that they had repaired his liver using a regenerative field technology that stimulated his own cells to accelerate their natural healing process. His fractured ribs had been set and were being held in place by a molecular bonding agent that would dissolve as the bones healed. Throughout it all, Dr. Ezzelith continued to monitor Greg's temperature with obvious concern, despite Greg's repeated assurances that it was normal. I still find it difficult to comprehend, the alien doctor said as he reviewed the latest scan results. At such temperatures, proteins in most species would begin to denature. Our proteins are adapted to it, Greg explained, feeling stronger now that some of his injuries were being addressed. Just like I'm sure your biology is perfectly adapted to your lower temperature. It's just different evolutionary paths. Dr. Ezzelith made a gesture that Greg interpreted as thoughtful consideration, a logical explanation, yet remarkable nonetheless. It suggests your species evolved in an environment that would be inhospitable to many others. Earth has a wide range of climates, Greg said, but I suppose by your standards, even our polar regions might seem warm. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of another Xalaxian, this one wearing what appeared to be a more elaborate uniform, the newcomer and doctor. Xalith engaged in a rapid exchange of their musical language before the doctor turned back to Greg. This is Captain Vorlex, commander of the Harmony of Stars. He wishes to know more about your presence in this sector and your species in general. Captain Vorlex stepped forward, studying Greg with intense curiosity. Human, he began, his English more accented than the doctor's. Your kind is unknown to us. Our records show no official contact between Xalaxians and Earth dwellers. How did you come to be here so far from your home system? Greg explained about the diplomatic mission to Centuri Prime, the unexpected solar flare, and the subsequent disaster that had left him the sole survivor. As he spoke, he noticed the captain and Dr. Xalith exchanging glances. The Centurions, Captain Vorlex said slowly, are known to us, though relations are complex. They did not inform the Galactic Coordination Council of any planned contact with a new species. This is a concerning breach of protocol. We didn't know about any Galactic Council, Greg admitted. This was to be humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization. We've only recently developed the technology for interstellar travel. This revelation seemed to cause considerable surprise among the Xalaxians. More of their musical language was exchanged before Captain Vorlex addressed Greg again. This places us in an unusual position. If you are truly representatives of a species making first steps into the greater galactic community, there are specific protocols that should have been followed. The Centurions' failure to report your existence suggests either negligence or deliberate circumvention of Council regulations. Greg felt a chill that had nothing to do with his injuries. What kind of regulations? New spacefaring species must be properly introduced to the galactic community through supervised cultural exchange and technological assessment, Captain Vorlex explained. This is to prevent exploitation and ensure peaceful integration. If the Centurions were attempting to establish exclusive relations with Earth, it would be a severe violation. So what happens now? Greg asked, suddenly aware of how vulnerable he was injured, alone, and completely dependent on these aliens' goodwill. Dr. Xalith stepped forward. First, we complete your medical treatment. Your condition remains serious despite our interventions. Then, Captain Vorlex will need to report this situation to the Council and await instructions. Greg nodded, though anxiety churned in his stomach. How long will my recovery take? With our methods, the major internal injuries should heal within approximately 7 of your Earth days, the doctor replied. However, complete recovery will take longer. Your species' elevated temperature actually works in your favor here. It seems to accelerate your natural healing processes compared to what we typically observe. See, Greg managed a weak smile. My dangerous temperature has some benefits after all, Doctor. Xalith made a sound that Greg realized was the alien equivalent of laughter, a melodic trill that rose and fell in pitch. Indeed, though I still find it remarkable that your cellular structures don't simply cook themselves. Over the following days, Greg's condition improved steadily under the Xalaxians' care. He was moved from the medical bay to a small but comfortable room that had been adjusted to accommodate his physiological needs, including a higher ambient temperature that made the Xalaxian medical staff visibly uncomfortable whenever they entered. Doctor. Xalith visited frequently, not just to monitor Greg's recovery, but also to satisfy his scientific curiosity about human biology. Their conversations gradually expanded beyond medical matters to include broader discussions about their respective civilizations. Your species' history is remarkably violent, Dr. Xalith observed after Greg had explained some of Earth's major historical events. Yet you've managed to survive and advance technologically despite your tendency toward conflict. We're working on it, Greg admitted. That's part of why the Century mission was so important, a chance to show we've moved beyond our violent past and are ready to join a larger community of intelligent species. An admirable goal, the doctor said. Though I must tell you, even in the galactic community, conflict exists. Different species, different biological imperatives, different resource needs, these create natural tensions. Greg was about to respond when a sharp pain lanced through his abdomen, causing him to double over with a gasp. Dr. Ezzelith was immediately at his side, scanning instruments activated. Your repaired liver is showing signs of rejection of our molecular bonding agents, the doctor said, his musical voice taking on an urgent tone. This is unexpected. Your elevated temperature may be accelerating a breakdown of the synthetic materials. The pain intensified, and Greg felt a wave of nausea wash over him. It hurts, he managed to say before another spasm hit him. Dr. Ezzelith called for assistance, and within moments, several Xalaxian medical technicians entered the room. They transferred Greg onto a hovering gurney and rushed him back to the medical bay. Through a haze of pain, Greg heard the doctor issuing rapid commands in his native language. We need to remove the bonding agents before they cause further damage, Doctor. Ezzelith explained as they prepared Greg for an emergency procedure. Your body is treating them as invasive foreign substances, another peculiarity of your biology we failed to anticipate. Greg tried to respond, but the pain had become overwhelming. He felt a cool sensation at the side of his neck, and then blessed darkness engulfed him. When Greg regained consciousness, the first thing he noticed was that the pain had subsided to a dull ache. Dr. Ezzelith stood nearby, monitoring a series of holographic displays. What happened? Greg asked, his voice hoarse. The Xalaxian doctor turned to him. Your body rejected our standard healing compounds. We had to remove them and instead use a biocompatible scaffold derived from your own cellular material to support the healing process. It is a more primitive approach by our standards, but your immune system seems to accept it. Will I be okay? Yes, though your recovery will take longer than initially estimated. Your body's rejection response was quite aggressive, another feature we attribute to your unusual thermal regulation. Dr. Ezzelith paused, then added, it seems your normal temperature creates an immune system that reacts with remarkable speed and intensity. Greg managed a weak smile. So my dangerous temperature saved me again, in a manner of speaking, yes. The doctor's large eyes studied Greg with what seemed like newfound respect. It appears that what we perceived as a biological flaw is actually a sophisticated adaptation. Your species evolved in an environment where rapid immune response was necessary for survival. Over the next few days, Greg's recovery proceeded more smoothly with the new treatment approach. Captain Vorlex visited to inform him that the Galactic Council had been notified of humanity's existence and the circumstances of Greg's rescue. They have dispatched representatives to meet with you, the captain explained. They are quite interested in learning more about humans and establishing proper first contact protocols. What about the Centurions? Greg asked. Will there be consequences for them? Captain Vorlex made a gesture that Greg had come to recognize as affirmation. They will be required to explain their actions. Attempting to establish exclusive relations with a newly spacefaring species violates several interspecies agreements. There is speculation they may have been interested in Earth for its unusual biosphere. What do you mean? Your planet exists in what many species would consider a high-temperature zone, yet has developed complex life forms. This is rare and potentially valuable for xenobiological research. Additionally, the resources on a planet like Earth with its high metallurgical content and diverse ecosystem would be quite valuable. Greg felt a chill at the implication. You think they were planning to exploit us? It is a possibility the Council will investigate, the captain replied diplomatically. As Greg continued to heal, Dr. Ezzelith became increasingly fascinated by human physiology. He conducted a series of non-invasive studies with Greg's permission, documenting the various ways human biology differed from Xalaxian norms. Your thermal regulation system is remarkably efficient, the doctor noted one day as he reviewed his findings. The combination of sweat glands, Variable blood vessel dilation and metabolic adjustments allows you to maintain your high internal temperature across a wide range of external conditions. Many species require much narrower environmental parameters. I never thought of humans as particularly special, Greg admitted. We're just adapted to our own planet like you are to yours. That adaptation has produced some extraordinary results, Dr. Xalaxian replied. Your species' ability to function at what would be fever temperatures for most known intelligent life forms gives you certain advantages: accelerated chemical reactions, faster neural responses, and as we've seen, an aggressive immune system that can quickly respond to threats. The doctor's fascination took on new dimensions when he discovered that humans could temporarily elevate their temperatures even further during illness. You intentionally become hotter to fight pathogens, he asked incredulously when Greg explained the concept of fever. Not intentionally, it's an automatic response, Greg clarified. But yes, our bodies often increase temperature to help fight infections. Remarkable, Dr. Xalaxian murmured. At such temperatures, most Xalaxians would experience neural damage and organ failure. Yet your systems are designed to withstand it. The implications for xenomedicine are significant. By the time the Galactic Council representatives arrived 2 weeks later, Greg had recovered enough to move about without assistance. His ribs had healed, and his liver function had returned to normal. Dr. Xalaxian had compiled an extensive report on human physiology, with particular emphasis on thermal regulation, which he planned to submit to the Xalaxian Medical Academy. The council delegation consisted of representatives from 3 different species, none of which Greg had seen before. They were accompanied by specialized environmental suits that protected them from what one of them referred to as the extreme thermal conditions necessary for Greg's comfort. The lead representative, a being named Diplomatus Jorex from a species called the Arhani, conducted the initial interview with Greg in the presence of Captain Vorlex and Dr. Xalaxian. "Human Jenkins," Jorex began, his translator device converting his whistling speech into English, "your discovery represents a significant event. A previously unknown intelligent species with unusual biological characteristics, attempting first contact without proper protocols. We wish to understand more about your civilization and intentions." Greg explained Earth's history of space exploration, their recent development of faster-than-light travel, and the diplomatic mission that had gone so disastrously wrong. He emphasized humanity's peaceful intentions and desire to join the galactic community as equal partners. "And you were unaware of the Galactic Coordination Council prior to your rescue by the Xalaxians?" Jorex asked. "Completely unaware," Greg confirmed. "The Centurions didn't mention any larger galactic organization during our initial communications. They presented themselves as an independent civilization interested in cultural exchange." The council representatives exchanged looks that Greg couldn't interpret. Jorex's environmental suit emitted a series of clicks before he spoke again. "This confirms our concerns about Centurion intentions. Their failure to disclose the existence of the council and its protocols suggests deliberate circumvention rather than oversight." Another representative, a being with multiple eye stalks that continuously swiveled in different directions, added, "The biological characteristics of humans would make Earth particularly valuable to Centurion biotech interests. Their recent advances in thermal adaptive technologies would benefit greatly from studying a naturally high-temperature species." Greg felt a surge of anger. "So they were planning to use us as research subjects?" "Perhaps not so directly," Jorex said, "but exclusive access to human biology would have given them significant advantages in developing new technologies. The Council exists partly to prevent such exploitation of newly discovered species." The conversation continued for hours as the Council representatives documented everything Greg could tell them about Earth, human civilization, and their technological capabilities. By the end, Greg was exhausted but hopeful that this unexpected encounter might lead to a better outcome than the original mission had promised. As the delegation prepared to leave, Jorex approached Greg privately. Human Jenkins, the Council has made a preliminary decision. We will send a proper diplomatic mission to Earth to establish formal relations and invite your species to join the Galactic Coordination Council as a probationary member. That's wonderful news, Greg replied, relieved. But what about me? I'm still a long way from home. The Xalaxians have agreed to transport you back to Earth as part of the delegation. Their medical expertise regarding your unique physiology makes them well suited for ensuring your safe return. Jorix hesitated, then added, "There is one more matter, Doctor. Xalith has requested permission to continue his research into human thermal regulation, with proper protocols and ethical guidelines in place. Would you be willing to serve as an initial liaison for this scientific exchange?" Greg considered the request. His accidental encounter with the Xalaxians had turned what should have been a tragedy into an opportunity not just for himself, but potentially for all of humanity. And Dr. Xalith's fascination with what he had initially considered a dangerous biological flaw had led to valuable insights for both species. "I'd be honored," Greg said finally. "Though I should warn you, there are humans with much more expertise in medicine and biology than me." "You have something more valuable than expertise," Jorix replied. "You have experience as the first human to engage with the wider galactic community. Your perspective will be invaluable as we move forward." 2 days later, Greg stood on the observation deck of the Harmony of Stars as the ship prepared to depart for Earth. Dr. Xalith joined him, wearing a thermal regulation suit that allowed him to comfortably stand near the human without suffering from what the Xalaxians considered dangerous heat. "I have been reviewing my final medical report on your condition," the doctor said. "You have made a complete recovery despite the complications. Your species' regenerative capabilities are impressive." "Thanks to your care," Greg replied sincerely. "Without you and your team, I wouldn't have survived." "It was a mutually beneficial encounter," Dr. Xalith said. "Your dangerous temperature has opened new avenues of research that may benefit countless species across the galaxy. Thermal adaptive technologies based on human biology could allow exploration of environments previously considered too hostile for most intelligent life forms." Greg smiled. "From medical emergency to scientific breakthrough, not bad for a diplomatic mission gone wrong. Indeed." The doctor made the musical trilling sound that Greg now recognized as laughter. "Though I must admit, I still find it disconcerting to stand near a being whose internal temperature would be fatal to my species. It challenges one's instinctive responses." "I suppose that's true of many first contacts," Greg mused. "What seems normal to one species can seem impossible or dangerous to another. The trick is looking past those differences to find common ground." Dr. Xalith nodded, a human gesture he had adopted during their time together. "A wise observation. Perhaps that is the most valuable lesson from our encounter, that life adapts to its circumstances in ways we cannot always predict, and what appears to be a biological contradiction may in fact be an elegant solution to a different set of challenges." The ship's engines hummed to life as they prepared to enter FTL travel. Through the viewport, Greg watched the stars begin to elongate as the Harmony of Stars accelerated. He was going home, but not alone. He was bringing with him the knowledge that humanity was about to join a much larger community, one where their dangerous biology might prove to be one of their greatest assets. As Earth's first accidental ambassador, Greg Jenkins had learned that sometimes the most alien thing about a new species could become the bridge to understanding. His normal temperature, so dangerous in Xalaxian terms, had opened doors to scientific cooperation and cultural exchange that might never have happened otherwise. And as the ship leaped into faster-than-light travel, carrying him and the Galactic Council delegation toward Earth, Greg couldn't help but smile at the thought of how future human-alien medical exams might go. There would be many more surprised alien doctors discovering that humans ran hot, dangerously hot by many species standards, but that was just normal for them. What had begun with an alien doctor's alarm at his supposedly dangerous body temperature had transformed into humanity's unexpected introduction to the stars. And as Dr. Ezzelith had discovered, sometimes what appears most dangerous about a new species turns out to be its most remarkable adaptation, one that might ultimately benefit all.